Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an exciting edition of Tough Talking Thursday. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. On the road to 2023, we have some interesting things that we're going to be discussing tonight, some interesting topics. And these include all the things that will be happening or that are happening as we move on to 2023. So we're going to be looking at those that are on this row. One of them is Mr. Alexander Cummings. Mr. Alexander Cummings is the political leader of the Alternative National Congress and also the standard bearer of the CPP. Mr. Cummings has been in the news lately. He got endorsement from former Information Minister Louis Brown. That was prior to getting another endorsement from Dr. Toga McIntosh Gbowee. Both Louis Brown and McIntosh Gbowee have ties with the NPP/NPFL. So people are asking, what is Mr. Clean doing with these guys? We're going to look at that. We also heard during the week that Prince Y. Johnson, that is the Senator Prince Y. Johnson, leader of the INPFL, has made some startling revelation against Mr. Cummings. We want to examine those as well. Councillor Tiawan say Gonglo has won the nomination of the Liberian People's Party. He will be running on the ticket of the Liberian People's Party that was founded in 1983. Is the Liberian People's Party still vibrant and viable to be the proper political vehicle that is going to transport Councillor Gonglo to the presidency? We're going to take a look at that. Also, Nobel laureate Gbowee has warned that unless the four main political parties join together to put forward one candidate, George Weah is going to beat them, and that's why she doesn't want to have any part to do with it. She has said a big no to all those people, all the political party leaders that are asking her as their running mate. We're going to examine all those. With me to do this, I have former TRC Commissioner Massa Emilia Washington, also a journalist. Massa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It is a pleasure to be back on FOL.
Thank you. I have invited a member, a founding member and ideologue of the Alternative National Congress. We're going to be talking about Mr. Cummings tonight, and so I've invited Mr. Jonathan Tayo Dolake to be part of this conversation. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
It is my pleasing duty to be on this show with great sons and daughter of Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate your coming. Also want to welcome our governance consultant, Mr. Atmas Salih, who is joining us from Minnesota. Mr. Salih, welcome to the show.
Let's do it, Dennis. It's always a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
I also want to welcome Mr. Akina Wesley joining us from Philadelphia. Comrade Wesley has his colleagues call him. He is the author of the Patriots Diary. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. That is a pleasure to be here.
Last and definitely not the least is our friend from the Waplo Institute of Kilipo Kanweken. That's Mr. Mohammed Sharif. Mohammed is also joining us from Philadelphia, and he is FOL political analyst. Mr. Sharif, welcome to the show. Please unmute. Welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. Of course, this is Focus on Liberia, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. And if you have not done so already, please invite your friend and let us go into it. Well, as I stated at the top of the show, Mr. Alexander Cummings is in the news. He is the political leader of the Alternative National Congress, and he was endorsed by Louis Brown, someone who was a staunch member or part of the NPFL, and also that was prior to that, he was endorsed by another NPFL associated, Mr. Dr. McIntosh Gbowee. So let me start with our ANC friend who is on the line. That Mr. Tayo, people are raising eyebrows about the induction. What is the ANC saying? That people are saying these people have ties with NPFL, and what is Mr. the one who, the proverbial Mr. Clean hands, doing with people with ties with the notorious NPFL. Mr. Tayo, how are you say?
Thank you so very kindly again, Mr. Dennis Jai, for this opportunity, and to all those who are on this platform. Let me quickly register that the forward march of our country, despite the ugly past, has got nothing to exclude positive, transformative engagement as to how our country move ahead. And so when I followed the label from the media about Mr. Louis Brown and Mr. Gbowee McIntosh, who ably contributed to the forward march of our country under Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf with specific roles, both in ECOWAS, in the government of Liberia at the level of foreign affairs, Ministry of Information, and the United Nations. What comes to mind is that they have elevated the conversation beyond those days of the NPP term to a more decent democracy that has to talk about the inclusiveness of all Liberians in a positive direction. And so the question for me will be, what have been their performance, whether at ECOWAS or at the United Nations, with respect to Liberia Forward March? What we can see today is that as a result of international partners and the able representation of of Ambassador Gbowee McIntosh at ECOWAS, we now can boast today, which we are still struggling on with the West African electricity power pool, and which is a form of security for our sub-region, especially those of us from Liberia, and the able representation of Louis Brown. But again, we expect these back and forth and the historical recount of their past because of their engagement, but we are mostly thinking about what the impact had made to our country, and what we have benefited from out of the process. And we hope to debate their current status with respect to the immediate past.
Let's go to Mr. Ahmed Salif, our governor's guy here. Mr. Salif, people are, kind of raising some eyebrows about the two nominations that Mr. Cummings received. Is it nothing for nothing here? Should people really be concerned? Or at least someone called them dead weight. Someone say, what is he doing with that? What's your take?
Well, thank you, Dennis. Again, I'm happy to be here. There's a saying that politics makes strange bedfellows. Politicians sometimes make choices that you will question, but it's about strategy. It's about, because, let's think about it. Each of these individuals you've mentioned, irrespective of their past, whether the past is, checkered past, questionable past. Unless somebody is really was an egregious human rights violator, and say at the level of a warlord or somebody who really enabled them, and maybe Mr. Brown and Dr. McIntosh. I don't know the personal NPFL history to the letter, right? I, of course, heard the name and heard the affiliation, particularly Louis Brown. But the point I was making is in African politics, you have to form all kinds of alliances. Some of these alliances, it can be purely political, some can be tribal, some can be based on the need to have access to the following of certain individuals. But it's a legitimate question that Mr. Cummings, who comes to this politics, the body politics of Liberia, as someone who, claims to be above the fray, as it were, in terms of what happens in the politics in the country, that he can bring a different and better way of doing politics. Of course, people should question these. But, I think it's much ado about nothing in that respect. On the human rights front, if I have the facts in front of me and the evidence and somebody can put it, and then that's a different question. You can question the morality and so forth and so on. And Commissioner Washington is here. They worked on the Truth Commission. Maybe that those stories and evidence that should hold us back to make us to more critically question Mr. Cummings' decision to accept the endorsements of these two individuals.
So let me go to Madam Washington. Madam Washington, a thing about the war. You've been a former commissioner. Does the involvement of Mr. Louis Brown, for instance, will warrant anyone to raise questions as to why Mr. Cummings will align with someone like that? Or we just looking outside, looking in, and people are making noise because really they don't know, as Mr. Salif said, we don't know the extent of their involvement. What do you know, and what you feel about Mr. Cummings aligning or accepting the endorsements of these two former NPFL linked individuals?
Absolutely, Dennis. Let me just say that even Mr. Cummings himself has said before that past behavior is a predictor of future behavior, meaning that it is so disingenuous and really, really sad to see Liberian people, of such caliber, justifying once more the role that people play in this country that have Liberia where she's at today. Let me tell you something. Long before I went on the TRC, I worked as a journalist, and I reported throughout Warren Fashion territory. Maybe it was just one or two places I really didn't go, like into, I think it was LPC territory or so. But I was in and out the NPFL territory because, Banga was central, was closer to Monrovia, the United Nations. Most of the time was facilitating, journalists going into NPFL territory to report because they were trying to encourage Mr. Taylor and the NPFL to lay down their arms and join the rest of Liberia. And we saw these people. Let me tell you, Toga Gbowee McIntosh, if some of you don't know, is credited for being the brainchild behind the transformation of the NPFL to what you now have as the NPP. Okay? He was the one who even, I can say, was credited for making Charles Taylor president, a rebel leader, a dreaded rebel army that slaughtered people, that beheaded people, that raped people, that opened pregnant women's stomach. Gbowee McIntosh introduced to Mr. Charles Taylor, if you want to be president of Liberia, if you want to really, really legitimize your control over the country, you need to organize yourselves into a political party. He introduced the concept and the idea for the NPP. And we know very well that the NPP is an offshoot of the NPFL. So it was Gbowee McIntosh's brainchild. He's credited for that. He was the one who helped Mr. Taylor structure himself, solidify himself, a warlord turned politician. And we saw what happened. Even when Mr. Taylor became president, the gross violations of human rights did not stop. As a matter of fact, it was now legitimized because now he was the legal president of the Republic of Liberia. They abused people's rights in the most horrific and horrifying way. Gbowee McIntosh was there when it happened. Of course, he was rewarded when Taylor became president. Louis Brown was rewarded. He was finance minister. He was foreign minister. So they were there. Not only were they there with Taylor in Banga, when his dreaded NPFL rebels were slaughtering innocent people all over the place, but they helped him transform himself. And when they came to Monrovia, they all benefited from the loot. So I want to remind the Liberian people that, for example, in Nazi Germany, you had Hitler, you had a tier Hitler there, then you had people like the Goreens and the Gobers, and then of course you had the people that who are the policy makers who were making the policies, who were making sure that they had money to create, to construct the gas chambers and all of that. So in my estimation, people like Mr. Louis Brown and Mr. Toga Gbowee McIntosh, I would consider them the policy makers and the brains behind the dreaded NPFL. So with all the decent, the educated Liberians that you have, the patriotic Liberians that you have, you want to tell me that Mr. Cummings don't see any of these people, but instead he's going back to the people who actually destroy the country? And this is why Liberia is in a chokehold with these perpetrators. Because Liberian people keep going back to the same people who destroy the country. So I'm really sad, and I'm also upset that Jonathan would sit here and try to justify Mr. McIntosh and justify Louis Brown. When they were there, what did they do for Liberia? What did they do for Liberia besides trying to reinvent themselves? What did Gbowee McIntosh do for Liberia at ECOWAS? What did Louis Brown do for Liberia at the United Nations? Besides solidifying themselves. This is ridiculous. It's shameful.
Ms. Washington, are you suggesting they should be excluded from the body politics?
What I'm saying is people like Louis Brown and Gbowee McIntosh, this is not the time for the voices to be heard, because the voices have the voices are dangerous. They ran the country before, they ran the country in the ground. It is because they institutionalized gangsterism. This is why Liberia is where she is today, in a chokehold, and she can't move forward. This is time to eat. These people don't need to be anywhere, at least not in the forefront of any new governance structure. They don't need to be anywhere. They have had a time. They have had a time, and they brought nothing but sorrow and destruction and shame to the Liberian people. Are they the only Liberians? Especially when these people have such sordid past and background, and people want to justify them. See how people justifying Prince Johnson today. Prince Johnson is there for a third time. How they justify Taylor. Liberians need to stop this kind of thing. And to see people of our caliber sit down and justify this kind of thing, this is annoying. It is annoying to the victims of the Liberian Civil War, for the fact that neither Mr. Toga McIntosh nor Louis Brown have one day tried to be decent to say, well, you know what, we were there. We didn't pull the trigger, but we were there. So we're sorry for what happened. They have not done it. Louis Brown is extremely arrogant. Every time you see him, he wants to start an argument with you because they think there's something, because you know what? They depend on these kinds of behavior from the Liberian people. And so these perpetrators are being resuscitated by that kind of behavior. And this is a shame.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Wesley. And Mr. Sharif, if you can turn your phone sideways, that way we get a better picture. So before you do that, put that in rotate mode and turn it sideways, horizontal, like this. All right, let me go to Mr. Wesley to add to the discussion. Mr. Wesley, Toga McIntosh, Gbowee, Louis Brown, Mr. Cummings got their endorsement. They gave their endorsement to Mr. Cummings, and people are saying, not so fast. What's your take?
I'm not quite sure whether this platform has become another police station, or as it were, a forum, a post-TRC forum to detect who should participate in the body politics or who shouldn't. Let me take a cue from what my brother Ahmed said. Politics will always create strange bedfellows. The NPFL machinery versus the NPP that became a springboard. They are inseparable. But one question Ms. Washington could not address when you put it to her was, are you suggesting that they be excluded? Or like Mr. Sharif
No, excuse me,
Yes,
Dennis. Listen,
they
Dennis.
did
Excuse me.
take
I'm
part.
usually very polite
They
on your
did take
forum.
part.
But
We
I'm
are
not going
having
to sit
a
down. I'm not going to
civilized
sit down and
conversation.
allow.
Master.
Listen,
We are
Dennis,
having
no.
a
I'm not going to
civilized
sit down and
conversation
allow
when
Ekina Wesley
emotions
to
begin
turn this into a
when
TRC
emotions
inquest. This is not
emotions
the
begin
Endorsement
The
country.
issue with
He
you,
started,
Madam,
no. He
emotions
started by
emotions
saying
begin
this
to
is not.
dominate
He
Master,
started by
or
saying this is not a
consume.
TRC
Master.
hearings. No,
Yeah,
I'm not going to
Master,
take
hold
that from
on.
Ekina.
When
Let Ekina make a point and keep the TRC
emotions and
Master, hold
going.
on.
sentiments
He
begin
needs
to
to not
hold on.
attack me.
consume
Master, hold on. You're
what should
gonna
be
have the print. You're gonna
analysis,
respond.
then we'll be found wanting on this program.
Mr. Master, you're gonna respond. Just hold on. Go ahead, Wesley.
We expect this platform to be civil and engage in such a way and manner that it does not reflect what some of us refer to as market ground on the other side. The TRC process is going to be contentious. The TRC process and its antecedents will always generate all sorts
Master,
of
I'm putting you on mute. Please, you're gonna have your time to respond. I'm putting you on mute. I want to be respectful.
controversies. That's what the TRC process is going to do. And so we are here to talk about two persons, two Liberians, who for whatever the political reason.
Hold on, Mr. Wesley. Master, you are on mute, so we can hear you. So hold on. After Mr. Wesley, you're going to come in. Just hold on. Go ahead, Mr. Wesley.
Our ability to be tolerant in this kind of discourse is very important. We've not come here to speak for or against anybody, but to articulate the issues, Master, until you can remove sentiments from what should be analysis, you'll be doing yourself a disservice in a forum or a discourse that should be healthy and very productive. I think Ambassador Louis Brown and Dr. Toga McIntosh Gary are Liberians. They can choose to identify with whomever they wish to choose to identify with. You cannot unmask them of their relations with the NPFL vis-a-vis the NPP. Mind you, for history purposes, why in the heat of the conflict, Dr. Maggie ran away from Taylor and came to Monrovia and accepted a job from Dr. Sawyer. I think we are not going to turn a blind eye to such a history. Yes, he was there. He was part of the Taylor NPFL machinery. Whether he participated as a military strategist or as an economic policy think tank, that is for another debate.
Right.
But I think Mr. Cummings, having given all of us the impression that he's above the fray, we would like to see him identifying with people who will be less problematic, less of a controversy, because we go into elections time. People, for whatever the reason, look for those little things and begin to go after those who either endorse or pledge to support a particular individual or not.
Right. So Mr. Wesley, before you learn your thought, if assuming we don't know all the details yet, assuming that these people have ties with NPFL, should they be held accountable, or anyone should be doing business with them regardless of their
The two people are not on the list of people this TRC sanction in our country.
Okay.
We got a commissioner yet. That is why it was important for her to specifically respond to the concerns raised by my brother Ahmed. And you, on the other hand, do you want to completely exclude her from the body politic? No response. We don't want sentiments here. We want people sticking to the issues so that those who are following us can make a better judgment of the kind of analysis we try to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Mr. Sherry, just hold on. Let Ms. Washington, I'll give you a minute to respond quickly before I go to. Please be brief. We want just a minute to respond, then we can go to Mr. Sharif.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
I didn't hear you ask Ekina Wesley to be brief. I didn't hear you ask him to not personalize this discussion because this is not a TRC discussion. I didn't hear you asking him not to chastise me either. I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to sit on this forum, okay, with a bunch of males and then have some male chauvinists, think that, he can do his patriarchy thing. It's not acceptable. Ekina Wesley can make his point without trying to be disrespectful to me, without trying to call me out, because I have the right. Just how he thinks he has the right to make his point, I have the right to make my point. Okay? It's because people always want to compromise whatever it is. Some of these people are weak, some of them they call themselves men, but they are extremely weak. And it's because of the weakness of some of these people. This is why Liberia is where it is. Because they are cowards and they are chicken. They don't make decisions because they are weak men. And I'm not going to sit down for Ekina Wesley to degenerate this show into a TRC. This is not a TRC show.
Ms. Washington,
so all this nonsense are dragging the TRC into it. Do you think I'm going to be shy because I serve on the TRC? I serve honorably. I serve honorably.
Ms. Washington, let me interject before you continue. Mr. I didn't see that has been disrespectful. He disagreed with you. The same way you disagree with Jennifer.
He has no business calling me up. He's calling me up. He has no business calling me up. He should stick to the point. This is not a TRC inquest.
Washington, you just called Mr. Cummings
you disagree with Jennifer and you pointed that out. So and I was giving him chance. So when you finish, then you can have your turn to talk.
And next time you bring me on this show, Dennis, when you bring me on your show next time, just make sure that if you're going to have 3 guys on this show, you're going to have at least 3 women on this show, because I can see all the testosterone. I can see it jumping all over the place. He's talking about being emotional. Look at Ekina Wesley or display here tonight. Ekina Wesley, these people are sitting down and telling us we must accept this Louis Brown and this Toga marking that street that is being shut down.
We got to give him
some of us were there, we know. Some of us were there, we know what happened in that country.
I hope we don't have their airtime.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us not cross talk. Let me go to Mr. Sharif for his take on the issue. Mr. Mohammed Sharif, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Dennis. You're asking my thought on the endorsement by Louis Brown and earlier on Toga McIntosh Gbowee. So just to be clear, Mr. Cummings talks about doing things the same way, as sort of the clean hand of Liberian politics. This doesn't sound to me that this is the work of a clean hand. So it's the same old, right? So you're now piling around with elements of the dreaded NPFL and the transitional, the self-proclaimed NPRAG that terrorized rural Liberia from the better part of 1991 to 1994. So elements, some of whom I respected in my college days. I mean, Louis Brown, these are guys that I look up to when I entered the University of Liberia. But no sooner when the war came, we saw the true colors of individuals that we look up to. So it wasn't just Louis Brown. It was Louis Brown, ACT faculty. You have Christian Herbert. You have Alexander Kulu, guys like that, Len Eugene Nagbe, who all crossed over at a time that mass brutality was being committed by the NPFL. And they crossed over. Louis Brown, in one of his recent interviews, said that he went to Buchanan and protested and delivered a speech because people were being killed in Buchanan. The people of Bassel were being killed. Louis Brown stepped over dead bodies, most of whom I want to say here were Mandingos and Crown people who were lying alongside the road to Buchanan before he entered Buchanan. Was this discussed with Mr. Taylor when he decided to work with the NPFL? These are legitimate issues You know, I'm not sitting here saying Mr. Brown was one of the gun-toting bandits. He probably wasn't, but he was a powerful intellectual leader of the NPFL. So individuals like that have no platform in the New Liberia. Individuals like Toga McIntosh Gbowee had no platform in the New Liberia. So, you know, the atrocities committed have not even been adjudicated at this time because of the reluctance of successive Liberian governments to hold people accountable. And so these are the underlying issues in Liberia. So in the midst of that, when you have a political candidate saying that, you know, he is the clean hand, well, don't tell me that you are a clean hand when you are now summoning all of these former NPFL, former members, elements of the NPFL into your party. We already know that, you know, George Weah has done the same. You know, George Weah recruited Joe Howard Taylor. George Weah has also recruited other MPFL members. Someone said these people are part of the society, but for God's sake, there needs to be a sort of reawakening to reality that there were crimes committed. So even though there may not have been a criminal proceedings, there may never be criminal proceedings against them. But at the same time,
Oh, Mr. Sharif, we stopped hearing you. All right. So thank you. Thank you all. This time I'm going to give each of you 1 minute each to talk more about this. I want to get your second take on the issue, and then we go to our next issue, which is a PYJ revelation. This time, let me start with Mr. Ahmed Salif.
Oh, thank you, Janice. You know, I began by saying separating politics from human rights, and looking at the body politics, how politics happens in our context. You know, sometimes when I start talking like that, I like to go academic, and then I come to the specifics and the substance. That's kind of how I do my analysis. In no way, look, I was a human rights officer for a long time. I supported the TLC's work in the diaspora. You know, I went to Liberia during that time to help the commission. I traveled around with the commissioners. I'm one who is for justice. I'm one who is for Liberia, bringing perpetrators of war crimes, of crimes against humanity and against our people to book. Because if we don't do that, we can just sweep, you know, major human rights violations under the carpet. That would suggest to young people that that was something normal. That's what they should do, and that's not what we ought to be about. That's not nation building. We see the impact of the Civil War today. Our young people, we have a lot of functionally illiterate people who went to some schools in our country that are not equipped to build the young people who we should depend on to build the country moving forward, because they're the younger generation. So the legacy of the terrible crimes that Mr. Taylor brought on Liberia and the allies that helped him to do that still persist today, and we ought to hold people accountable and continue to call for accountability. Now, however, that said, you know, we've seen with President Sirleaf, she hired Louis Brown, she hired Dr. McIntosh in very high-profile state positions. That's not to justify anything. I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, sometimes when conflicts happen, that there are many different ways you hold people accountable.
Right.
Commissioner Washington is here. They had a TLC process.
Salif, let me interject. Madam Salif was also thought to be a financier of the NPFL. So you will see why she will do that. So the issue with Mr. Cummings that people are concerned about is this is the clean hands. So what is wrong with these guys? Continue, sir.
Yeah, that's problematic. I mean, I said that, you know, I said Mr. Cummings came and said it was above their phrase. I always say that, you know, past performance predates future performance. And so if these people's past history are the people who are now with their past history, they're the ones who are now endorsing you, and you can accept such an endorsement, you can accept association with them, you will most likely accept strategies and ideas from these people, and you accept their followings. Of course, one will argue that their followings are Liberians, and where a place where politics is very murky with the past war crimes and war history of Liberia. All of that taken together, politics is a matter of strategy, it's a matter of winning hearts and minds. Politicians, as said, make strange bedfellows. They accept all kinds of people in order to get into power. And so questioning Mr. Cummings's inclination and his decision to accept these individuals is a very legitimate thing to discuss and to put him under the microscope for.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Dolake. Mr. Dolake, here we have the issue of a war crimes court. I believe Mr. Cummings is in favor of that, and also I believe you are. The problem is if people that participate in the war, they're on your side, you are less likely to call for these things. And it happens after, we've seen that before. So don't you think the concern here is legitimate that if these people participated or they have linked with NPFL, Mr. Cummings, who is coming as a clean hand, will be less likely to hold perpetrators of our kindness accountable?
Thank you, Dennis. And let me say this conversation, it is very good for the forward march of our country. We will have to agree, we have to disagree to agree and be respectful to each other. Mr. Cummings, as far as I'm concerned, by public record, he appeared on 50/50/2019 and is on record to have agreed to the World Economic Crime Court support and its establishment. What I cannot, and I hope you pose to my dear sister Massa and others, is that how can someone refute an endorsement? I have not heard any of such in any political life that someone has refuted endorsement. More than that, bulk of the population that we are talking about, or some huge number of the population, without putting figure to it, there are people who took part in the war. So who is going to lead Liberia without some of these people endorsing? What matters the most for me is how that person govern, whether they will be taken from those people who are believed to be involved in the war, putting them at the head general of leading the governance process of that person. That is what matters. But to talk about endorsement as a means of evaluating the level of votes, that means I will be evaluating everybody's vote as a matter of fact. And I want to say to Madam Washington that
before you go to Madam Washington, will it matter if someone is a hardcore criminal or someone who committed atrocity that we all know? Is there a possibility that you reject the endorsement of somebody because of their character? Is that something that Mr. Cummings can do, or because you have not seen it, you don't think that should be done?
As a matter of fact, let me be very honest with you as a Christian too. I don't think any vote counts over the other vote. It is how you handle the governance process. Take, for example, if Joshua Blahi, who now have repented, who is doing tremendously well in the community, decide to endorse someone, are you saying without having a verdict of the TRC, you will now be using blanket allegation and using your own judgment to render people guilty? I think that's why Mr. Cummings agreed to that there's a need for one economic crime court to establish the redemption of our lost resources, as well as those who bear the greatest responsibility to face those things. And there are also people who were lied on so that they too can be vindicated. That's the way to go forward. But to just use the shenanigans and spill things on people's character, I think it is fair that those who also say it must come on a query. What I finally would say is that Mr. Louis Brown, Dr. Gary McIntosh, they are old enough to understand the best way to go in our country is through the legal process. And I guess they are well prepared to face any consequences should there be established any forum that will hold them accountable. And let us leave it at that. And let us not hold Mr. Cummings responsible for people who endorse his candidacy.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Wesley, Mr. Cummings is on record calling out Mr. Josh Weir for supporting warlords, Model, Lur, and Melee from his association, right? Should Mr. Cummings also be held for associating with people with war history?
I think we reached a very critical point in the history of our country where post-conflict, having had 3 successive elections, we stay grappling with what becomes of justice, or as it were, should we allow impunity to continue to permeate the society where the scars of war continue to be haunting people? Mr. Cummings, like everybody is saying here, is the one who's come with clean hands. If in the name of politics, he's telling Mr. Weir that Mr. Weir did provide support to a warring faction in Liberia, what is good for the goose might equally be good for the gander. And so you got to find from time to time this sort of horse trading, And so, quite frankly, Mr. Cummings is the one who will be facing the Liberian people. And I think it's important to establish that the pursuit of justice, it is not written on people's faces, or the demand for justice not written on people's faces. Patriots Diary has existed since 2006. And with a consistent pattern, what we write is what we articulate. Not because our views run contrary to those of others, and so we begin to be perceived on the basis of the instincts and the tendencies associated with miscalculation and things like that. Of course not. We think, we reason, we experience a war, we lost people, just like anybody in any part of our country. And so nobody should be under the illusion that they or us should happen to be both hurt. And the fact that we are now raising our voices to the level of the roof cannot suggest that we don't want or we don't demand justice.
Thank you.
So Cummings has a responsibility to face the Liberian people and tell them why is it he has chosen the path of dealing with people who come from a questionable past. And of course, the people will decide.
Thank you, sir. Let me Miss, before I go to Miss Washington, Jonathan, someone has even mentioned that yes, people can refuse endorsement. For instance, if someone from the KKK endorses you even in fact, Obama was called to disavow and disassociate with his pastor Jeremiah Wright. So we'll get to that. But let me go to Massa, and then we come to Mr. Sharif, he's been accused of using pro internet. Mr. Sharif, what's going on today? You are not in Bannersville.
No, I'm using a very good internet, but this, that'll be settled. I'm not sure what's going on.
Miss Washington, let's conclude on the endorsement.
Okay, so I think the endorsements, accepting the endorsement from Toka, Gbowee, McIntosh, and Louis Brown in the fashion and manner in which the ANC and Mr. Cummings have done, like rolling out the red carpet for these people, I think it's a slap in the face to victims of the war. It's a slap in the face to the Liberian people who actually believe Cummings, or who are actually looking up to him to break this vicious circle of perpetrators hijacking a public office, because the Liberian people, for several different reasons, have not been able to properly deal with what is happening. So they suffer in silence. And this is the same, Mr. Cummings, I'm not happy because Mr. Cummings, when he came on board, people saw him as the hope for Liberia. This is a guy who is different. He was not there. He was not part of the war. He didn't steal any money. He worked very hard for every penny he has. And he has some good ideas. So he's a good guy. Mr. Cummings is a good guy. But we will not excuse him when he makes mistake or does the wrong thing. Mr. Cummings started by, seeking out the support of perpetrators. You don't change any situation by, going into bed with the same people who got us where we are today. This is the same Mr. Cummings who was campaigning for Sandra Johnson in Tottenham, Bourbon County, lifting his hand up, was campaigning with Prince Johnson, lifting his hand up. If some of you don't know, Sandra Johnson is the mastermind behind the Mahé Bridge massacre in Bourbon County, where when ECOMOG took over Poor River, citizens in Bourbon County went to the NPFL and asked them to please, they wanted to go, come to Monrovia to their families to tell them, okay. Sandra Johnson and the rest of them, they organized themselves and told people, you'll meet at so point, we got pick up there, and the pickup will carry you to Poor River Bridge and turn you over to ECOMOG. And as they were bringing pickup full of people, they were stopping John on Mahé River Bridge and slaughtering people. I met with several of the victims. As a journalist, I met with several of the victims. I spoke to them and I wrote about it. So maybe this is why I'm passionate about this. So Mr. Cummings was not there in Liberia, sitting in the United States and watching this carnage on television. It's not the same as being there and actually being part of it. So from one perpetrator to another, he did the same thing. He jumped behind the banner that you read them and the CPP. I wrote against it. I said, this is the wrong way Mr. Cummings is going. You cannot, what people say, if you lay down with crackers, you will get up with the crumbs of the crackers. So from Sandra Johnson to Bernard Ayure, you saw what Bernard Ayure did. Bernard Ayure almost destroyed him in this place. Bernard Ayure took 9 months to destroy you, to drag Mr. Cummings all over this place. And that Solicitor General, today the Solicitor General is on the sanction list. He got what he deserved. So I'm not against Mr. Cummings, but I'm against the way he's going because he's dashing the hopes of Liberians, and it's a slap in the face of people like us. You're looking for something, you're looking for something different and something decent, something that will break that unholy or Armageddon that's going on in Liberia. And then Mr. Cummings comes and he thinks that he really needs these people. He doesn't need them. Mr. Cummings does not need these rebel people. He does not need these perpetrators. He does not. We have a lot of Liberians, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of Liberians that he can look for and rally around. Why the perpetrators all the time? Why all the time? So because the more they do these things, then the more they entrench these people in the body politics. We are not going to get rid of these people anytime soon. Okay, and never mind that they are not even contrite. We never heard Mr. McIntosh say, "Oh, my people, we're sorry, things happen. We're sorry, we want to move on. I will try my best. I will do that." None of them.
Ms. Washington, I hear your the reason why you are holding Mr. Cummings to a higher standard. Are you saying this because he's Mr. Cummings? What if other politicians, let's say Mr. Bwaka, has accepted the endorsement of these same individuals? Will you have the same problem with it?
Then it's all of them. If you've been seeing my posting, my writings, all of them who do this, I've been speaking against it. In fact, one of the reasons I felt with Ellen Salif, I've been speaking, and then somebody is making an example of Ellen hiring these people in her government. It's not a good example. Ellen was hiring them because that her, she came back home, that her people. The NPFL, her organization, her people, so she was hiring them, brought them in her government, to give them a place. So that's why she was hired. It's not a good example. It's not a good. So I'm holding Mr. Cummings to a higher standard because Mr. Cummings is the one who has not done anything wrong in that country. Quote unquote, he's Mr. Clean. Okay, so I don't want Mr. Cummings to be another white chicken on us. When you praise him, then he jump in the mud and turn dirty and turn brown. No.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings, if you are listening, Massa is holding you to a higher standard.
I'm holding him to a higher standard.
We have extended an invitation to Mr. Cummings. We are working on that, and he's going to be right here on Focus on Liberia to answer some of the questions. Mr. Sharif, let's conclude on the endorsements, and then we go to PYJ.
Yeah, I apologize. I hope my connection. And
I will send my technician there to Philly to see what help they can give you.
I hope you do so, because I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking about Louis Brown's endorsement. This is an endorsement that's really, to me, signal the same old Liberian politics. And Mr. Cummings is not the only one who has sought the endorsement of, former NPFL militants. You do have, George Weah, who, embraced Jewel Howard Taylor. Jewel Howard Taylor is a powerful part of Weah. Now, was there this sort of visceral during that time? I probably didn't see one. I probably missed at the time, but I did write about it at that time, that there was no need for Jewel Howard Taylor to be, right next to the presidency. Because look, the NPFL won the Civil War. As bizarre as this sounds, and it hurts me to even make that conclusion. Why am I saying this? You have Prince Johnson, who's one of the most powerful senators in Liberia today. You have Joe Howard Taylor, who's one heartbeat away from the presidency. So this is what we're talking about now. You have Alexander Cummings, who's craving the endorsement of all these top wigs in the NPFL. And so this is the Liberia that we have. So unfortunately, the rest of us, all we can do now is to talk about these things. But when we talk about these things, we talk about it against the background of being the real pictures. The guys who destroy our country are not the real pictures. We are the real pictures. And so Liberia we are in a dire strait right now. And so talking about this is extremely, extremely important. So Mr. Cummings need to listen to this. I hope he's listening. I hope he will make a different decision, because this is not right.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. Here we talk tough, and there is no room for Tabata. At this time, we're going to turn our attention to what Mr. Prince Johnson has said about Mr. Cummings during the week. Mr. Prince Johnson was heard saying that Mr. Cummings gave him $55,000. Mr. Cummings also approached another senator who is like he considered his son, Mr. Jeremiah Count. People call him Coon, but Jeremiah's father is from my town, so I know him. Jeremiah Count, for wanting him to be the vice president. These are all startling revelations that Mr. Cummings said, yes, I gave him the money, but it was for his school. Does that sound familiar? There was a time that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf gave $10,000 to the NPFL, and she said, well, this was for humanitarian reasons. So again, people are raising their concerns that Mr. Cummings is trying to bribe, as almost all the politicians in Liberia do, get Prince Johnson on their side so that they can get Nimba County. So that's the allegation. Mr. Cummings himself was responding to that allegation. Take a listen.
Is it true you gave money to Prince Johnson? I keep seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, look, we gave money to Prince Johnson's University, community college. As you know, Chris, we invest in education. I think education, and I mentioned our priorities, and we may talk about agriculture. Mm-hmm. Education ultimately is what will sustain any change we make in Liberia. So and you know, the Prince Johnson just did for me what I don't like to do. I don't like to talk about everything I've done.
Did he solicit it?
But yes, he did. But the point, though, is the bigger point is this was a contribution to the institution. We've also given money to Nimba County Community College.
He didn't want it to go public.
It's okay if it go public, but
all right. That is Mr. Cummings responding and say, yes, I gave money to Prince Johnson, but it was for an academic institution. It was for the Prince Johnson University. Mr. Sirleaf, I mean, again, Mr. Cummings is noted for giving money to institutions. And he gave example, he gave money to another institution in Nimba, also gave money to Tottenham University. So this is not new. Are you buying that, or is this a in Liberia, as we say, a connoisseur way of getting Prince Johnson's support?
Well, I mean, this is a difficult question, because on the one hand,
difficult questions, and I'd like to put you in that position.
Yeah. On the one hand, you listen to him talk about education, and we're all passionate about education in Liberia, because I have to agree. When you have a very highly educated population, the opportunities, the prospects of change is very high. and we struggle in that area in Liberia. And you said the record shows that Mr. Cummings has gone around contributing to schools or to politicians. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, I mean, I said earlier, politics is about strategy. Politics is about also doing the right things, being smart, so that the optics is not, impacting your support, because again, it's about winning hearts and minds. So if you are perceived as associating with questionable characters, that is problematic, not only for your domestic audience and ultimately people who will, go to the polls, but also your international image. This is the man who is big on international image, right? So that's another aspect of it. And then the final point here is, I comment his advisors and their strategists must be thinking, look, Prince Johnson is a popular senator in Nimba County. Of course, he's known for, selling votes or being the kingmaker or whatever, accepting money allegedly, and to try to help politicians get elected or get a Nimba vote. That's what he's known for. But he may be just buying his way to the Nimba people. And again, we're not here talking about the victims and the human rights component of this, because that is abhorrent, right, in terms of these people's records on the war, during the war. So I mean, I just think that he's just really trying to get himself in a position where he has a lot of Liberians who have different constituencies behind him, so that their followers, their supporters, their hometowns, their counties can see that if Prince Johnson supports Cummings, he must be a good person. Dr. McIntosh's people may say the same thing, Louis Brown's people. So those are the calculations I can see here as a possibility that Mr. Cummings and his team may be making. Other than that, clearly, I mean, you have to be careful how you make that kind of decision. All right. But Liberia is a small country, Dennis. I mean, we are less than 5 million people. We have a population problem. A lot of times we don't have the market to maneuver politically and do the things that one needs to do, and not needing other people to be able to get power.
Let me understand clearly what you are saying. You are saying Liberia get plenty bad people, so if you want to vote, you can really avoid people with shady characters.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly my point. Look, we have people with checkered characters. We have integrity problem in Liberia. If you begin to make the list now, name people who have been known to have stolen public funds, who are corrupt, who have done bad things to our people in the country, the list is endless, right? And then here you wanting to become president, running. Now, how do you navigate that to say, listen, there are 100 people here who are known as, national prominent people. Look, we can begin to call names here tonight, right? But I'm not going to associate with these people because of their past history, because of what they've done. You're not just saying that about just those individuals. You should know that you're saying that about people who follow them, people who admire them for whatever reason, people they influence. So again, at the end of the day, you want to become president, you have to strategize so that you have power. Then you have the legal authority to make the type of decisions. And now that's not to suggest that you can't be moral just because we have this problem. But I'm just putting it to you here that, listen, we have this difficult problem. If we begin to sift things out and say this person, that person, how many people are we left with? It's a national moral decadence and moral compass problem.
You are saying our country, Liberia, we have an issue of moral decadence, so we should just kick morality through the window.
Dennis, look, you ain't keep words in my mouth. See, I'm not saying let's keep morality out of the window. I can't be the one who will say that. I'm just you call me here to analyze the issues. I'm telling you what I see, what the facts are, what the history tells us about our country, what our situation. We have a predicament. We have a moral predicament as a national problem in Liberia. And then we have a population problem. We are a small country. And so we also have an education problem, the kind of people you need to move and do certain things. And then so you begin to disaggregate that and say, I can't deal with this person. I can't deal with that person. I can't deal with that person. I'm just saying that person is in a tough spot. And so
Thank you.
whether you accept that or not, is just, I'm just pointing it out to you as a matter of observation.
Thank you, Mr. Dulake. After that, some time ago, Mr. Prince Johnson was placed on the Magnitsky Act for selling votes. In every market situation, there are buyers and sellers. So, wouldn't Mr. Cummings be a little more careful in dealing with this man, even though this might have happened before he was placed on the act? But Prince Johnson is noted, and that's why when I heard him before hearing from Cummings, I said this could be one of Prince PYJ's pre-election gamemanship. But it turned out to be that yes, Mr. Cummings actually gave him 55,000. Should Mr. Cummings be careful around those kind of characters?
Firstly, I have not heard anywhere where Mr. Cummings have pronounced Senator Johnson's name in the most recent time. So I'm concerned as to what motivated Senator Johnson's statement. If his name had not been called by Mr. Cummings, like in the instant case where Mr. Cummings wrote President Weah, or he had not mentioned him anywhere, my guess is that for the fact that two former NPP stalwarts had endorsed Mr. Cummings and seems to be ripping the CDC of some of her strategies, Prince Johnson had now been sent to go work against Mr. Cummings' character. But the good thing is that the statement about Senator Johnson, I found it quite interesting because I know for a fact that that particular assistance that was provided Senator Johnson was provided prior to the Magnitsky Act or sanction. Besides that, I know on the book that Mr. Cummings have provided more than twice said amount to Nima Community College, to the AME University Graduate Program, even to Madam Joel Howard Taylor when she was struggling during the St. Clement days, and she came on Truth FM and congratulated Mr. Cummings 2016. And he had done it for several institutions, including TU in Maryland County. So to have selected, though he admitted that it was based on humanitarian purpose, but to have selected to discuss it when his name has not been called, it will tell you the political motivation of it. As far as I'm concerned,
right? Are you saying Mr. Cummings still had no political motivation when he gave the money?
No, like Prince Joseph was contesting 2017 in an election. I don't know what political motivation Mr. Cummings will want for
Rich
Senator
Neighbor
Johnson.
County is the political motivation. He's the kingmaker.
No, but you contested 2017 for president. How can that be a political motivation? Madam Joel Howard Taylor contested to be vice president. How can it be a political motivation? I think it is just about how he contributed to BWR and seeing that people get education as much as possible. But what is very important amidst this conversation is the fact that there is nobody, and I want someone to point to it, there is nobody in our political history that will call for war and economic crime code establishment that Senator Johnson will want to be friendly with that person. So for Mr. Cummings to say 2019 that he accepted war and economic crime code, not only for those who bear the greatest responsibility to account for it, but for also those who have been lied on and they are carrying a scarf as a mere propaganda through a judicial system that everybody can be heard and they can face the accuser. And that is why I'm hoping that Mr. Cummings can be enlightened, say he has put his face on this war economic crime code, so that Madam Washington and those who did extremely well for the TRC, their dream can come to pass. And the way for it to come to pass is not to put a stamp on those who have been accused without a judicial process, but let them face the accuser.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I have a story for you, and I want you to respond. You know, in my town, there are two guys. One name is Sekle Bete, the other guy is Tutu. So Sekle Bete is can tap palm wine, and Tutu can set the trap in the water to catch fish. It happens that wherever Sekle Bete tap his palm wine, there where Tutu can set his trap. So in my town, the way they say, "Ta sekle better bed drokan go to pepun," meaning wherever sekle better, because this tutu is a drunk, but wherever sekle better palm wine tree is, there where he's setting his trap. The same way, we have this sekle better guy who is selling vote, and the place the vote selling is taking place, there where Mr. Cummings donation is also taking place. So
Yeah.
what do you? So there is this sekle better phenomenon. Speak to that.
Dennis, I hope you can hear me. And
Yeah.
again, once again, I continue to apologize. Technical issues beyond my control here, but it is clear that the $55,000 that was donated was donated because of something, right? He didn't just go about donating 5,000 here. 25,000 there, right? Another 25,000. So it wasn't just a gesture out of its own goodwill. Yes, I'm such a good person, so I'm just going to go ahead and give you 25,000 here, another 25,000, another 5,000. The reason is clear. You have Prince Johnson in Nimba County, who is a force a force in Nema County, whether we like it or not. And so donation to his university is sort of like, coming to Prince Johnson, asking for his support, asking for vote. That's what it was. And so to me, that doesn't sound to me like, someone who's trying to change the trajectory of Liberian politics. And this is the biggest disappointment that I have with Liberian politics, because nothing has changed. So you have individuals who really, who are contesting for George Weah's job, but they're not really that much different, are they? I mean, because if Prince Johnson is now, lambasting Mr. Cummings and putting out these allegations, and one thing you can accuse Prince Johnson, you can accuse him of many things, but he has a good memory of things. He can choose sometimes to omit some of the things that he did in his past, but he has good memory of what happened. He said, look, this guy has visited me more than 7 times. And so, what is Mr. Cummings saying about that? What are you visiting him for? What is the reason for those visits? What was discussed? Let's be clear. Those things, I hope when he comes on your show, on the show, those things need to be asked as to what was the reason for those visits? What was the reason for the 55,000? And since, in fact, he was put on the Manisky sanction, so Manisky now was the, kind of like the matrix or something he was waiting for to do something. Since he was put on the Manisky sanction list, has he requested for a refund of his 55,000? That's what a clean politician would do. You will ask, you will request for a refund of that 55,000. Make a statement about it and ask him to return the money and explain why the money was donated. And so, as long as that hasn't been done, I think Mr. Cummings is culpable here, politically speaking. So, people around him need to advise him on some of those things, because he's still doing the same old thing that others are doing. So Dennis, there is nothing different now from the incumbent and those who are trying to succeed the incumbent. And we're going to hopefully get to some of the other candidates, Gonglo and so on and so forth. But what you're beginning to see now is sort of convergence of ideology, if there's one. Really, usually there's no ideology when you talk about, Liberian politicians, at least in recent Liberian politicians. So I hope that we will talk about some of those things later on in the show.
Thank you. Ms. Washington, I believe Mr. Cummings gave this money maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now, Prince Johnson, who is very good at manipulating people to get money, especially during, prior to elections, he's done that so many times, and the guy is rich, man. This guy built a university out of such money. And from what I hear you saying, I know people like that. I mean, how can you go around Prince Johnson? He got, prior to 2020, the last few elections, the whole Nimba County is behind him. You expect us to throw the baby away with the bathwater?
But
Lay out here, what can we do?
Okay, so let's ask the question in the reverse. So how do we change Liberia? Do we just continue to be frightened and to be cowardice, excuse me, like, you know, the scary dog who puts his tail in his behind and he runs off and then
you massage the situation maybe
and then just leave? So what do we do? Because all of us sitting on a platform are, you know, are advocates in different manners, and we are all decent people who want the best for Liberia, including Mr. Cummings. No doubt, I think he wants the best for Liberia. So how are we going to change this country? Okay, even Mr. Cummings himself said, how is it you are doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Mr. Cummings said that. You know, you do the same thing repeatedly but expect different results. So you come back, you do the same thing the other politicians and charlatans are doing. You resuscitate, you know, the people who have actually destroyed the country and have this country in this economic and also political chokehold. What is Mr. Cummings doing giving Prince Johnson money? God forbid, even if Prince Johnson, you know, what is he giving? Prince Johnson does not need the money. Prince Johnson is rich. He's a millionaire. Prince Johnson is a millionaire. Prince Johnson makes more money in a month than, you know, than some people, you know, take home in a whole year. So look, let me tell you something. Mr. Cummings keeps making epic mistakes, one after the other, one after the other. And I know my ANC friends will not be happy. I'm sure after this, I'm going to lose a lot of ANC friends. But if you know me, you will know that I like to stick to the truth. Mr. Cummings keeps making the same mistake over and over. From Sandon Johnson campaigning with perpetrators to Bernard Ure, you saw what Ure did to him. You would have thought that after Ure did this thing, he would slow down, you know, create a little team, let him do research on some of the people who want to partner with him. And then that way, you know, he'd be making an informed choice. But then I just see Mr. Cummings going in, you know, like the ostrich, he hid in the sand. That's how it looks like to me. So to come down to think that you need to roll the red carpet for Louis Brown and Toga McIntosh because they want to join you, really? In the first place, what is Mr. Cummings doing in a one-on-one discussion, meeting, or anything with Prince Johnson? You don't go to, look, the devil invite you to dinner, you say no thank you, I'm full, even if you have not eaten for 1 week. You don't go to dinner with the devil. You don't go to have guess what? Most likely you will have flesh and blood.
But Ms. Washington, do you believe Mr. Cummings sees Prince Johnson that way?
Well, I'm not in Mr. Cummings' head. I'm not close to Mr. Cummings, so I don't know how he sees him. But I'm taking Mr. Cummings for his word. I'm taking him for what he said. He's a clean guy. He's come to change things. He wants to do better. He wants to, you know, move the country forward. He's finally said. First, he said, you know, first he was not into the war crimes code, you know, thing. When they brought it, he said, well, I really don't know. Maybe I need to set up a committee to see whether it's relevant. But then later on, when he received backlash, he came out, he said, yes, I will support the war economic crimes code. I'm happy because that's my project. But the thing is, Mr. Cummings, the point I'm trying to make, Dennis, is that you will not change Liberia. You will not unshackle Liberia, okay, if you keep doing the same thing that has the country where it is. So then you just might as well just leave Prince Johnson and let them do what they want to do with the country. How are we going to change this country? How are we going to put Liberia forward? How are you going to change this country if you keep doing the same thing? So, Mr. Cummings, let me tell you something. Mr. Alexander Cummings, I hope you're listening to me. Okay, I don't hate you. I'm not an ANC. I'm an independent. I don't hate you. But listen, our expectation for you was so high. You are making the same mistake over and over and over and over. You need to retreat privately and think about what you're doing, because you know, people are now saying that Cummings is so desperate now that he would take any nomination, even from Satan himself. Yeah, he saw Satan wearing horns on his head.
Thank you.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you, Mr. Wesley.
And by the way, I wanted to say, Prince Johnson, I got no respect for him. He's a mass murderer. I got a list. I took my time and put together a list of some of Prince Johnson victims. I got about 12 civilians that Prince Johnson killed. I got them here, okay, and more. So Prince Johnson is a mass murderer. He has no standing whatsoever to even drag this whole thing in, okay? He's dragging it in because, again, he wants to, he wants to destroy Mr. Cummings. He wants to create controversy around him, just how Benin Ayure did with the CPP thing. But you know what? Cummings is not learning his lesson. Let him keep messing with Prince Johnson and stuff. They will keep embarrassing him. Prince Johnson is nobody for you to sit down and do anything with. Prince Johnson, you can't get him careful. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He will breach every confidentiality. Prince Johnson has no, as far as I'm concerned, he has no integrity. He's a pathological liar besides being a mass murderer.
Thank you.
Cummings got no business being with Prince Johnson. He got no business giving Prince Johnson money. Cummings should take that money and give it to poor people who really need it. Let him give you $5,000, Dennis, so you can expand this platform here and be able to pay some of us so we can just resign our 9 to 5 and just help do this Liberian people work. Let him can't get my women advocates a group $5,000 so we can go do some good work in Liberia. What he giving Prince Johnson money for? The people who finished stealing the whole money in the country, they're looting the country. What's going on with Alexander Cummings? What's going on with him? Then people won't say now, they don't want to take constructive criticism. Cummings blunder big time.
Thank you. Mr. Wesley, the question there is, Massa is asking what's wrong with Mr. Alexander Cummings, and my question to you is, what do we do with this Prince Johnson phenomenon? I mean, again, in my village, there is this palm nut. It got almost to the end of the palm nut, right? So it's kind of red, and then it got like pus in it. So we call it mliwi. You say when you eat it, you eat the pus. When you throw it down, you throw in the oil away. So there is this mliwi conundrum when it comes to Mr. Prince Johnson. I mean, you embrace him, you got Nimba County. You throw him away, you are losing votes again, but he's coming with a baggage. The man seen on camera butchering the president. And as Massa said, yes, Prince Johnson killed a lot of innocent people. What do we do? You want to win election, it's all about votes. This is, I mean, and when some say the end justifies the means, at least let me get there and then I do this. But along the way, I need all the vote I can get. This is the situation Mr. Cummings finds himself in. What does he do here now?
I think Harry Truman would rather say, if you don't like heat, you stay out of the kitchen. Quite frankly, regarding the politics of inducement, Mr. Taylor used it most effectively in 1997. We all saw the alliance crumble. And it crumbled because Mr. Taylor effectively used inducement. What I do know about Mr. Cummings is that Mr. Cummings has his charity. And on the one hand, he's into politics. So being able to draw a line between the charity on the one side and politics on the other side, you sometimes find it very difficult to do, because it is a Cummings-led foundation and is an ANC political leader on the other side. And so whether we like it or not, one is using the other to make inroads and impact. What we all need to agree to is that Prince Johnson is a very erratic factor. Until we can understand Prince Johnson, the issue of dealing with Prince Johnson will be a non-relevant matter. But since we are discussing Mr. Cummings, I think it is important for us to correct an impression here. We are not Mr. Cummings' people. Mr. Cummings is only represented by one person on this platform tonight. If my Marylandness is misinterpreted to mean that we are Cummings people, that is incorrect. For those who think we don't subscribe to the rule of law, accountability, the demand for wars and economic crown court, that is all the reason why we unequivocally support Tiawan Gonglo. For the record, let people know some of us for who we are here. And so when we speak, we make independent analysis free of our political leaning. Mr. Cummings, we all agree wants the best for Liberia. But Mr. Cummings cannot be dancing with all the bad people in the town, and he, at the same time, is trying to do everything possible to make Liberia a better place. We found it rather difficult because by mingling with the same old bad people in the town, you will end up inheriting power, and when you inherit power, you just wouldn't be able to unmask those bad eggs from the tendencies that have continued to dog them and to polarize our country. Got no business dealing with Prince Johnson. That's for the record. Absolutely no business dealing with Prince Johnson. Mr. Salif made it very clear. Elections are about strategies. We agree Prince Johnson commands numbers in Nimba. But you are educated and thoughtful than Prince Johnson. Why not employ the strategies? And employ the strategies around people who, although the people are listening to Prince Johnson in Nimba, but the people who equally listen to when you include them on your team to come and advance ideas that will appeal to the people
Mr. Wesley
in mind.
Mr. Wesley, that thought process, that analogy suggests to me that you are saying Mr. Cummings is supporting Prince Johnson University as a quid pro quo. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Cummings runs a charity.
Right. So it's just doing charity work.
Mr. Cummings is a politician. Mr. Cummings has ambition. Prince Johnson is a kingmaker. It is obvious.
Okay.
Mr. Cummings expects something by the end of the day. There's no two way about that.
Mr. Dolake, just 30 seconds. Mr. Wesley said Mr. Cummings expects something at the end of the day. That's why he's giving the money. What's your response?
Firstly, we have to. I don't know. So, what did he expect from the vice president who was contesting a vice president as well? Senator Johnson was contesting to be president. The history of Nimba is that Nimba always vote their sons. So, how this assistant amounted to wanting his support? That university has since got it on the way prior to 2017 elections. And I just gave you a history that Madam Jewel Howard Taylor, not Dolake, on Truth Event, said Mr. Cummings redeemed the Sinclair that were crumbling under her leadership board chair.
Do we know exactly when Mr. Cummings gave this money?
I know for a fact that what was given to Senator Johnson was during the course of the 2017 elections.
Right. Prince Johnson also said when he gave another, I think, 25,000 during the Ganta summit, when all of them were together and say, well, whoever is going against Josh, we are in the second round, we will rally around that person, right? So even though they were all going separately, they were expected to coalesce around one person in the second round. So there will still be a motive here.
Let me clarify that aspect. When they gather in Ganta with George and everybody, Senator Johnson said that he organized the occasion, but he never had funding to take care of the responsibility. And he appealed to Mr. Cummings to assist in that process. And that's how Mr. Cummings assisted. That figure that he called, it is far, far below that said amount that ever existed. And so I don't know how can somebody get your support. I don't know how can I get your support, Dennis, when you're contesting an election as president and I'm contesting as president. I can't phantom that.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday, and of course, we talk tough here. Time is fast spent, so let's go to Councillor Gonglo. Councillor Gonglo accepted the nomination of LPP, and somebody, they said when Liberia declared war on Germany, the German chancellor was looking for Liberia on the map, and he couldn't even say, but where's this country? So when people today hear the name LPP, I mean, they say, okay, what is LPP? This party was founded in 1983, and now is LPP the right vehicle? That's why I say, does this vehicle, LPP vehicle, even have gas in it? Is it in working condition to take Councillor Gonglo to the presidency? Mr. Wesley, you established yourself as a Gonglo supporter. Why LPP? What people are saying? Okay, where is this going? Tell me how serious this is.
LPP has since the ban was lifted, participated in all of our elections beginning with 1997. Even up to
and lost bigly.
Until the mass of our people come to the realization that the progressive forces who have always championed the cause for rights are given an opportunity to lead and ensure that the interests of the masses become generally reflected in the governance process, we continue to be doomed. There are people who believe part of our problem in Liberia is the creation of the progressive. That we stand here to flatly disassociate ourselves from. When you go to the TRC, the list of folks you see there, very minute input came from real progressive leader in our country. Whether there's gas for LPP to take us to 2023, or there's water to take us to 2023, it is the Liberian people who will make that determination.
You can drive on water, Comrade Wesley.
Well, whatever, I'm speaking idiomatically. Because when we go on foot, we have to drink water.
Okay.
Whether it is the gas or the water that is taking us to 2033, it is the Liberian people who will make that determination as to who becomes their leader. Councillor Gonglo, we must congratulate him on his election as standard bearer for the Liberian People's Party. Our critics believe that we are way behind. How they define that is $1 million question. But it is the strategies that will be employed by the party and the various auxiliaries that are being organized across the globe to ensure that Councillor Gonglo replaces Mr. Weah post-October 2023.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif.
Yes.
Let's talk about the LPP vehicle. Were you on this vehicle before, Mr. Sharif?
No, I wasn't on the vehicle. I had brothers, who were very progressive, people that I look up to, Gbowee and others, who were very close to that movement. But no, I wasn't. If I were to be, then that was, where I would have gone at the time. So yes, I almost was, but I wasn't. Then I wasn't. So in any case, we right now, so you have, first of all, congratulations to Councillor Gonglo. Your question is well in place. This LPP doesn't seem to have the momentum really needed to be able to win the presidency. I don't think so. I don't think they do have the right candidate. They do have the message, but the Liberian political attitude is different. So I have to tell you, as we sit here, there are people in the rain, right? Or early today, in the rain, dancing for George Weah in the United States where we sit, right? In New York City. There were people who took buses from places and they're singing in these buses and they're going down with their red berets and stuff like that. And they're dancing for George Oppong Weah, President of the Republic of Liberia. I mean, this is this is beyond ridiculous, right? So if the Liberian people can do this, then this very Liberian voter, I don't have any confidence in this in this very Liberian voters that they are going to make a wise decision and go in the direction of a progressive candidate like Tiawan Gonglo. In the recent past, it hasn't happened. Look, how many years George Weah has been relevant? It's been over a decade. George Weah has been very relevant. He's been at the very top regardless of how you look at him. In 2005, he came second when it was all said and done. In the first round, he actually beat Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, so he was on the precipice of winning the presidency. And then he has been relevant ever since then, and he is going to be relevant in 2023. So the task for the opposition, and just to segue into one of the things that Lima Gbowee said, the opposition needs to be collected. There needs to come together. There needs to be a conglomeration of this opposition that we saw in 2019. With the CPP, they need to come up with a real model. I'm not talking about this current CPP now. They need a real model to go into this election to beat George Weah. Other than that, they are not going to. Dennis, if you permit, one thing that was troubling to me recently, Councilor Gonglo, just when I was thinking this is the right candidate, this is the right guy, there was a recent remark by him, I think it was this week. He was talking about, there was a viral video that went around that talked about George Weah trying to foment instability between the people of Nimba County and Grand Jita County. Councilor Gonglo in his interview didn't quite distance himself, didn't quite condemn that video. In fact, he said, well, to a question about Burkinabés, he said, yeah, there are Burkinabés in Nimba County and Grand Jita County. I've talked to the Bureau of Immigration about it. And these Burkinabés are the ones that caused the civil war in Ivory Coast and this and that and the other. That is collective guilt. If Taylor took 700 Burkinabés, 800 Burkinabés, I don't care how many the number is, Burkina Faso has about 20 million people, over 60 ethnic groups. So you want to tell me that 700 to 800 Burkinabés are the reason why you have this sort of xenophobia for the Burkinabés? So that is unacceptable for a political leader. That is unacceptable. Someone needs to check their remarks and speeches before they go out there and deliver these remarks and speeches. That is the reason why in the United States, you have people handlers who will tell you what to do. Look, Ahmed is right here. Ahmed is a brilliant, I think that Ahmed can work with any of these people to kind of check them. And I saw, his sister was on that show. Edith was on that show. And I also trust that Edith is a very good, I think she's a good strategist. So you work with people who can really check you at some point, who can say, it's better to say this than not this. I think he needed to stay clear away from that, but he launched into this xenophobic nationalism, which is really unacceptable, because if it's by collective guilt, I can then say the Mon and Don people of Nimba County were predominant NPFL, and because of the fact that they were predominant NPFL, so you, Councilor Gonglo, you are a sympathizer of the NPFL, but that's not the way that's not the way intellectuals analyze issues. So I was very disappointed in that remark. I hope you'll take that back. I hope he's listening right now. I hope you will really take that back, because that is unacceptable. Not all Burkinabés are responsible for this, and there needs to be an immigration policy. First of all, when our ancestors came to Liberia, who asked them for immigration documents? So I mean, people should get away with this. I mean, what? Why?
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Dulake to talk about Councilor Gonglo. I mean, I'm even hearing chatter from people on both ANC and UP camp say, oh, let Councilor Gonglo come and be our VP. So what do you make of the LPP being the vehicle for Mr. Gonglo to get to the presidency?
It is quite a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Gonglo on the astute statement of our country. I mean, we can condemn all Liberians, but it is just quite reasonable that we come to this conversation. We acknowledge those who are outstanding. It takes not much for us to be honest about the conversation. Councillor Gonglo have contributed to our country significantly, and I wish him well. It will be my hope, unlike what Mohammed said, it will be my hope that the CPP can co-opt as many political parties despite the breakdown of the former CPP, so that we become more stronger. I think that was the wisdom that Mr. Cummings and the likes of other thought, that there was need to reduce the political playing pitch of our country. But I also want to state very quickly for the record, and not necessarily in defense of Councillor Gonglo, and not to denigrate or discount the people of Grand Jira County, but the facts on the book. And we don't sit and just think that we got all the knowledge and other people made mistakes. The facts on the book is that there have been and Burkinabe, like I said, I will not discount Grand Jira, but there have been Burkinabes that have been in the forest of Grand Jira and been threatened Grand Jira, and they have been reported repeatedly. So we don't take for fact the video, but there are elements in the video that call for national security investigation. Take, for instance, a young Nigerian who diligently served his country in the National Elections Commission, Liberia at large, gone missing. When the Justice Ministry ever came to mention about it, unlike this video, what had the legislative caucus of Grand Jira said? The last time I saw, the superintendent of Grand Jira was almost fighting in the presence of the Internal Affairs Minister, the representative of Grand Jira, because he spoke about this issue. So, Councillor Gonglo is not meant to draw line between the Nimbayes and Grand Jira. It is about the historical impact that Burkina Faso had on warring situation in the sub-region.
And Mr. Dulaka, if you can quickly speak to the what Gbowee also said, that unless the four come together, George Weah is going to beat them like drum, in the words of Louis Brown.
Look, madam, this thing here we dream for our country. That's why some of us who lived the course of the war and could not take up arms, and our parents send us to school, sometimes we are calm to handle the issue. And sometimes we smile because we still feel when we discuss it like this, we can find a solution. Madam Gbowee, who is a peace ambassador, should get her feet wet with how to amalgamate. It will be to her credit. None of us should sit passively that we are advocates. We don't want to put our foot in a place to guard the process or to contribute our quota, but think that it should come angelically. No, I don't think so. I think Madam Gbowee, we take her pieces of advice, but I think she needs to get involved in order to advise, as a leader, to advise some of those people who got interest to contest to see how they can reduce their ambition and come together. It will help the process.
Thank you. Let me go to Ms. Washington. The LPP vehicle and the remarks from Nobel laureate Gbowee.
Okay, so when it comes to the LPP, I actually think the LPP is going to be more of a liability to Councillor Gonglo than that vehicle that can actually get him to the finish line. And the reason I say that is because I think the LPP has actually outlived its popularity, its usefulness. Because just look at its performances over time, over the years. For example, like you said, Dennis, the LPP was formed in 1983, right? It was formed in 1983, right? So you had these stalwart progressive people, like Ekena was saying. They were basically the LPP was formed against the ideology of Pan-Africanism. This popular wind of change with Dr. Sawyer and all these progressive groups that we knew then. But then over the years, things happened along the way. For example, in the 1997 elections that saw Charles Taylor became president. Now, why it is true that we know that there were several factors that came to play in how Charles Taylor became president, because the rest of the candidates didn't have access to the rest of the country to be able to campaign, especially in Taylor held territory. They were threatening and all of that, and Taylor won this election massively. But the point I'm trying to make is that the LPP, which is basically the Progressive Party, in that election, they feel Dr. Topa Nantipote, who, quote unquote, was supposed to be a popular or LPP member at the time. And Dr. Topa Nantipote he was only able to gather at least 1.61% of the vote. So he came like way down the line. And out of 64 seats, I think, legislative seat at the time, they didn't win. I think they didn't win any seats. And then come to the 2005 elections, the LPP did not go, independently as the LPP. I mean, as the LPP, what they did was they formed a coalition with the Alliance for Peace and Democracy, and then they supported. I think they supported Dr. Tipote at that time. Again, they didn't go anywhere. In the 2011 elections, the LPP did not field again as the LPP. Okay. Again, they went into a coalition with this National Democratic Coalition. This time, they supported Jill Mason, another, staunch, progressive. Yes. So, and but then what was interesting is that this same Tipote who ran on the LPP ticket the first time, this time he was actually, opposing Jill Mason. So there was a split there with the LPP. Again, they failed miserably. Then come the 2017 elections. So the 2017 election, they did, they feel it was Dr. Famule. Dr. Famule, I think, yes, he ran, and Marcus Down was his vice president. His vice presidential running mate. And again, they had only 11,560 votes, which comprised about 0.74% of the national vote cast. And for the House of Representatives, they got only one seat. So you can see how it has not gotten better with the LPP over time. The LPP has declined. And I think one of the reasons, Janice, is that when Ellen became president, I think the LPP maybe subconsciously merged herself into the Unity Party in a de facto type of way. Even though some of them, the Communist we said, and the rest of them kept saying, I'm not a Unity Party member, we are not Unity Party people. But they were so immersed in the issues of the Unity Party. So when they all did that, it helped the LPP to really become invisible. People could not see the LPP anymore. Amos Sawyer, all of them were so immersed into Ellen Johnson Sirleaf 2 terms. So that's what happened with the LPP. So I do not see the LPP at this time. Tiawan is a fantastic candidate. I think he has his own merit. I think he can really do well. But I think this LPP is a liability to Tiawan, and I think it's going to cause some problem for him, down the road. I may be wrong, but that's how I see it.
So that car got no gas in it. What's about the Lehman Gbowee issue quickly for?
Well, actually, with the Lehman Gbowee thing, I really don't have much to say about it because, I've watched Lehman over time, and she's somebody who she's always belated in her opinion. Lehman always wait, like Jonathan was saying, what does she say? What she's saying is not new. Everybody been saying it. We've been saying it over and over, all over the place. We not say on the platform, I say everywhere. We know very well with the political dispensation now, I don't think any one party is able to really, get the CDC out of power. So we've been saying it forever, ever. So it's not new, but, I think you just mentioning her because she has the title, but we've been saying it forever, ever. So, it's not new. She's not saying anything new.
If you're watching us, the number is on the screen. Call and be part of the conversation. That's 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. And before I go to Mr. Sirleaf, I want Mr. Wesley to quickly weigh in on the Lehman Gbowee warning. She's crying that if you guys don't get together, we're done. Mr. Weah is going to win bigly. Quickly, 30 seconds, 1 minute, Mr. Wesley.
So I think my side is correct. She's always belated. anyone who has no appreciation of the historical antecedents of where we come from will definitely fall in the category of our Nobel laureate, Lehman Gbowee. 1997, we tried to form the alliance, the all-powerful alliance, and you know what happened? Taylor infiltrated and used inducement. 2025, we have almost 22 political parties. 2005, beg your pardon, 2005.
Okay.
We have nearly 22 political parties. In the end, there was a run-up. That pattern was repeated in 2011, and then we saw it in 2017. Whether we like it or not, the ego, the greed, entitlement of politicians in that country will always start by trying to unite, and in the end, they go their separate ways. So, Lehman Gbowee argument is untenable.
Thank you. And Mr. Sharu, you mentioned that people are in the rain to meet President Weah in DC. Well, our own chief political analyst, Mr. Wilmot Weti-Kuni, was one of those people. Take a look.
Who else?
We missed Mr. Kuni tonight because Mr. Kuni is in a t-shirt and dancing in DC.
What you saw is the failed finance minister standing with the next police director of the failed Liberian state. That's the failed finance minister with the next Liberian police director in the failed Liberian state under George Weah.
Are you predicting? Let me go to Mr. Shalif, our governance guy here, to lay out for us. Is the LPP vehicle that Councillor Tiamon Gonglo is using, does it have gas in it? Is it in proper working condition to take our councillor to 2023 presidency? And what do you make of Nobel laureate Lehman Gbowee saying, if you don't get together, my hand not there, my phone not there?
You know, Dennis, there's a management scholar, Jim Collins. I think in the last 2 decades in the United States, anyone who has gotten an MBA, and I don't have one, but I read a book, has had to read that book as a case study. So Jim Collins talks about looking at your institution. So Collins says that it doesn't matter, the vehicle doesn't matter, right? How you take your bus, he gives the analogy of the bus. How you take your bus from one destination to the other. It's about the passengers on the bus and people in the premium seat and the driver, who the driver is. So Collins says he has a way, a formula whereby which you can determine who the undesirable passengers are on the bus, and you remove them, and then you put the right passengers on the bus. But it's not enough to have the right passengers on the bus, as it is to identify the premium seat and put those people in the appropriate premium seat and identify the driver and put the driver in the driver's seat. You know where I'm going with this. So to me, the LPP thing and Councillor Gonglo, it's not about a party. I'm not looking at the LPP. I'm saying, I've said many times on this platform and other places that in Liberia, we have a problem with institutionalism. We have political individuals who are associated with political parties, and these parties have their juices based on personality politics, not based on institutionalism. So the point here is Councillor Gonglo, by virtue of his own gravitas, if he has all it takes, and he has a lot that it takes, and I've talked to him and others about his candidacy and the way I observe them. There are a lot of things they need to fix. There are a lot of things they lack. So that's a different story. But in terms of just looking at the political party and giving up and saying this can lead him to victory or to success, now that is an argument that I don't buy into. Because if you have the right driver, the right individual for a moribund institution, that person can bring life back to that institution and can bring excitement around it. Why do people run as independents and win? It's because of what they bring and what they've been able to cultivate the type of political institution, the type of political organization, campaign organization, they're able to build and raise funds and strategize and win elections. So that's what I believe in. That's my perspective. To what extent Councillor Gonglo can achieve that, that's a different story. In terms of, our Nobel laureate, Lema Gbowee, I know Lema.
Before you go to the Nobel laureate,
Okay.
I mean, where is the history? I know you quoted this guy, and I don't have an MBA too, and I've not read a book. But isn't that being academic? Because where is the history of the driver? If the vehicle cannot take you in Liberia, where is it that where is the history that the driver and the passengers have been able to make the difference in the election?
Oh yeah, there's so many examples I can cite here, Dennis. It's not even academic. Look, why do we have people running to become president of Liberia? Why are these people, or of any country or any particular electoral opportunity that people seek? Why? It's because they view the institution, the boss. The boss is the institution. So the idea is you take a failing company, right? Because that's in management business. And I'm not a business student. You take a failing company and you turn it into a very successful organization. That's the whole idea behind this analogy, right? That if you have the right people, you know how to identify the right people, you can take a failing institution to a successful institution. You can take a failing country and provide the right leadership, identify, you have big vision, big ideals, big ideas, backed by bold actions, the right people with vision and technical abilities, they can succeed. You can lead a country to success. That's what I'm talking about. And so we have many examples of that, if you're asking about that, Dennis.
Yeah, I think you are right. Let's go to Nobel Peace.
So in terms of Lema Gbowee, listen, I don't dismiss Lema. I've had problems with some of public utterances or even actions. We've talked about that. I know her personally. Lema is a Nobel laureate. She has gravitas. She has weight. She has political weight. She has international standing. And so this is somebody, when she says something, even if we don't like it in Liberia, the international press carries it. And so her voice matters here. If she's coming in and based on observation and saying, listen, if you want to remove this incumbent president based on XYZ, you, the opposition, I see you. If you don't do this, if you don't come together for the sake of the country, you're up for failure. You're going to fail. This election is yours to lose. That's what I'm hearing her saying. I'm not hearing her criticizing. I'm hearing her say, listen, President Weah has not lived up to expectations. And you in the opposition, if you're the ones who are saying you have a better candidate, you have a better person who can provide the right leadership for Liberia, then come together. Because like I said earlier, we have a population problem in our country. So, right, you can't win. No one person can just come and win 50 plus 1%, like Kenya 50 plus less than 1% and become president. You can't do that in Liberia. You'll most likely go to a second round. To do well in that first round, you have to have the right alliances, the right coalition, well-meaning folks who really, it doesn't matter one person's ambition, and that's what's killing us. When I talked earlier about moral decadence, and I'm not a sacrosanct sort of moral police here. That's not the point. The point is we have to go beyond our own egos and say, listen, it's about Liberia, it's about country. Our country is now in the right state. We need to move it forward. To do so, we have to make sacrifices and we have to come together. I think that's what I heard Lema say. Like I said, I've had problems with other things she said in the past, but this is not one of those.
Thank you very much. And our viewers, if you are there and you want to call in to join the conversation, please do so now. As we take a short break, when we come back, we're going to go over the Tabata of the week. I'm sure you have a lot of Tabata, and Mr. Sherry, there shouldn't be one of them.
No.
So we're gonna take a short break and be
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jai.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. Here we talk tough. We've been discussing on our road to 2023. At this time, we have 3 minutes to close, but I hope we can, our people in the back can extend that so we can go through our Tabata session. Every week, there's some Tabata going on somewhere in our country or in the sub-region. Tabata is a southeastern word meaning complete nonsense, foolishness. So let's go around the room and let me hear your Tabata of the week. Let's start with Comrade Wesley.
Growing up, issues surrounding protocol were observed with the highest standards as far as Liberian diplomats are concerned. Today,
hold your thought. Let me bring on the only caller for the night. Just hold your thought. We'll take one caller because time is fast spent. Caller, your name and where you calling from, quickly.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. My name is George Paul, calling from the state of Minnesota.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is, Mr. Cummings is in a rough terrain. I mean, all of his decision will not be, right, or it will be appropriate for him to get to where he needs to get. The truth is, Mr. Cummings is going to face more resistance because the real reason Mr. Weah won Benjida and continue to get the support of Benjida County is because of the support of Model. And Model lost the case from my county of Benjida. That's the reason why he is very, very close to Kaifali, who is one of the generals. And one person rebel is another person hero or freedom fighter. Mr. Weah was able to win Benjida because Kaifali control a huge population. And he was able to perpetrate Mr. Weah's message that this is man that keeps on in and we need him. Okay, and right now the position is being watered down because Mr. Weah decided to declare Benjida. Okay, so it's the same kind of an influence Mr. Johnson has, or have enjoyed for so long in Nima County. So unfortunately, that's the reality. And for Mr. Cummings to go through, he has to dance with the devil a little bit here and there myself. I wasn't too happy with the decision when I heard it. But at the same time, in any relationship, you have to put them negative and the positive. If the positive overweight the negative, you gotta go with it.
So Mr. Paul,
yes, sir.
If Mr. Cummings has to dance with the devil a little bit, how long do you think this dance should last? And how devil can that devil be, to dance or not to dance?
You see, again, like I said, you can already tell right now it's determined Mr. Johnson outburst, because right now the blame is then put on Mr. Cummings that he's the one responsible for the fiction. Okay? Remember, you said, I haven't had no government institution, I haven't managed nobody's money. All of a sudden, I found myself on the Niniski. So that was a way of him saying Mr. Cummings is behind. Okay? Even going as far as using all kinds of broken languages and stuff like that, he's angry. Because most of them believe Mr. Cummings is responsible for the fiction. Okay? So Mr. Cummings is going to face more resistance from those people. And the truth is, this will start, with a huge, political influence. Okay?
Thank you.
So again, like I said, Mr. Cummings, is in a rough terrain. It's going to be a struggle. He's going to face a whole lot, but we pray that, this may get there because, again, like the lady said, this may have good intention for this country. Yes, part of the decision will not be appropriate, but hopefully he can get there. And let me just say the spirit before I go. You see, for me, I believe that the only true judgment will start in under the executive nation.
Thank you.
Because that way, also holding to everything is thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's get the last one, and then we go to our Tabata session. And if you are there watching us, what is your Tabata of the week? Keep that. Let me get our last caller. Call out your name and where you're calling from. 1 minute, please.
Hi, everyone. Great discussion. My name is Thomas Cannon. I'm calling from North Carolina.
Go ahead, Thomas.
I just wanted to make a quick point on the Nobel laureate Lima Gbowee. I think, like Ahmed says, she holds a lot of weight, but I think that also comes with a lot of expectation. I think Lima and others have a history of getting our warring factions to Ghana and really pressuring them to be able to come together for peace to return to Liberia. And I think that is an expectation that the Liberian people will have for her at this point in time to be able to save the country. So in addition to just writing an op-ed and putting it out there, there is this expectation that perhaps she needs to leave Ghana for a while, go back to the country, get these people into a room, and make them to be able to take a decision. So I think just getting that out is not sufficient. She needs to get her foot on the ground. I think that expectation is there. And I demand on her.
Shout out to Thomas Cannon.
Yeah. Mr. Cannon, you're getting some hello here from our governors. Yeah, I like that suggestion that, hey, you do something. So let's go to our session now. What is your Tabata of the week? And sorry, Mr. Wesley, you were in flight. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, yes. I actually started off by reflecting on history, how the issue of Portugal always in time past came along with the highest standards. Of course, you know that Portugal is all about official procedures, systems, or rules regarding the conduct of diplomatic engagement. My Tabata of this week borders on our chief of protocol of the executive mansion appearing at a diplomatic occasion, at a diplomatic enclave, carrying bagpipe. I mean, this is unacceptable. You know, that is why people go to the Caesar Danish Foreign Service Institute. And you come here and make countries like Liberia that taught Ghanaians how to use knife and fork to eat, bring them such an embarrassment.
Where you get that other one from?
This is unacceptable. Ask Bacanora. I know the history of Bacanora. That is for a fact. Ahead of Ghana's independence, they came to Monrovia to learn how to use knife and fork to eat. That was an embarrassment to our country, and that's my Tabata of the week.
Thank you. Ms. Washington, your Tabata of the week.
Yes, I know, but Dennis, please give me 1 minute just to add to what Mohammed was saying. The point you were making, Mohammed, about Councillor Gonglo mentioning Burkina Bees and stuff, I didn't hear a whole statement, but I just wanted to say maybe one of the things behind it too is that the TRC was able to record. This is the first page. We were able to record 102 foreign mercenaries who fought the war in Liberia. Majority of them were, Burkina Bee fighters, and they remain in Liberia. They didn't go home. We were able to identify some of the locations. Most of them live across the bridge. Some of them have changed their names to Liberian names and stuff. So, what we're saying is that sometimes it's good for us to take time to understand these things too, because they have security implications for us. So now you have foreign mercenaries who were paid fighters from other countries. They stay in our country, plus our ex-fighters and stuff. So imagine. Well, my Tabata of the week is this Prince Johnson here. So somebody like Prince Johnson, who has zero credibility, who his victims, I was able to call some people quickly and made a list of 16 people whose family members he killed. Some of these people in front of them for this show. These are all civilians. They were not working in government. They had nothing to do with military. They didn't fight any war. You just killed these people sitting on his cowboy base. So to have somebody like Prince Johnson at this point in time spray gunning Mr. Cummings, because he thinks he wants to distract the whole process. So he takes this thing with talking about Cummings is gay and he's going to campaign in every county and go to Nima and let people know that Cummings is gay. When the person who started that gay lie, Obe, he himself came out and said it was just a lie and now it's stuck. So I think for me, Prince Johnson is my Tabata of the week because nobody believes him. He has credibility issue, and we don't believe anything Prince Johnson say. He's a Tabata.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, so Joan Howard Taylor, sometimes this week or maybe last week, during an interview, she's been making the rounds quite lately now. So during an interview, she said that the three of their top officials were accused or convicted by the United States government. Well, it wasn't a conviction, Madam Vice President. It was an accusation by the United States government. So an accusation is not a conviction. I don't know if she understands the difference. And then she says, oh, in the same interview, oh, thank God, the president and myself were not convicted. We thank God we were not sanctioned. Thank God. Come on. Jewel Howard Taylor. I mean, come on. Like, what is that? Thank God you need to do something. There's a need to do something even before this sanction. Even before that, we've been saying this. I mean, everybody and their brother and their sister has been saying this about their government. So there's a need to do something. So now she's saying, thank God, we were in sanction. And this is a kind of lack of discourse attitude. I think it's just pure nonsense.
Mr. Salif, what's your Tabata of the week?
Well, this whole Candy Crush thing with our First Lady that just went viral there everywhere. Social media was buzzing with it. All right, listen, I get it, right? So I've been to the General Assembly. I've been to the United Nations. I've been to events on the sidelines, whatever. I don't claim to be that diploma or in that situation as the head of state or sitting behind her, but I've been in that atmosphere and that environment, kind of how it goes. Like we're on this show, right? Somebody can text me, I take my phone, answer, I put it down, or some kind of long, drawn-on speech is ongoing. Somebody can use, their phone, and it doesn't mean that they're not engaged in anything serious or they haven't been engaged in a side meeting people on the sideline negotiating. So I thought it was overblown. And now to say that the First Lady was there on account of taxpayers' funds and on serious state business, that's not what I'm dismissing. They should be there. I think the whole delegation, I've been looking from the distance. I'm not there. I'm not talking to anybody there. But I think the vibe, the optic, the send is like a little too jovial. People should be really engaged on the sidelines, making deals, arranging follow-up visits and things like that for the president to visit, state visits and ministerial level and things like that. Instead of coming on social media to fight it for tat, this wasn't true. I think it was just too much of a tabata. I think on both sides. Also observing on the side, let it go. Somebody can for a moment be on their phone. It doesn't mean they haven't been engaged in any serious thing. On the other hand, if you're there for serious business, be engaged in serious business. So I'm just saying, tune it down. Let's understand the facts.
Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Jonathan Tyre Dolake for Tabata.
Yeah, man, Tabata. But very quickly, let us record in history that the First Lady played the deputy president role at one of the occasions of the United Nations when the spelling of Liberia was ahead of the First Lady, and we are sitting in different capacity. That history recorded at firstly at the summit. But my Tabata for the day is the political commodity rise in our country. Again, I was on the show a few weeks ago, and I mentioned that the sanctioned Nathaniel McGill and former Minister of State was linked to 14 plus million subsidy that the importers have not gotten, and it would have created problem for us. As of yesterday, I placed call to Ganta because yesterday was my mother's birthday, And I heard people saying that even the 25 kg is being divided into half to be sold to people because they cannot afford to sell 125 kg to one person. On Julia Just show today, they are saying that to buy 25 kg, you have to buy mosquito coil. So some kind of commodity must follow it in order for the importer to get money. So it is quite embarrassing. I mean, on a matter of change, we can say all I want to say about all of the candidates, but what matters the most is about the rule of law. It is about how we invest properly. It is about how we cannot be put under pressure by whether in Brussels Airlines for navigator purposes when we know that we generate revenue and we attract investment to us. It is just a party. And those are the things that Mr. Cummings wants to fix.
Thank you. You let's go to our viewers now or get some Tabata here. This one from Doris Thompson. My Tabata is Mr. Cummings' names have become a household name in Liberia. They say nobody know him. So that contradiction say is all Tabata. Flomo Livingston, my Tabata is sedition traveling to go see the president instead of the president going to visit them in the estates. Lucini Kamara, the Tabata was the first lady sitting where George Weah should have been sitting at the General Assembly. Thank God that was corrected. Your Tabata coming, I saw there was another Tabata here. Keep the Tabata coming. We are here. Elvis say, my Tabata of the week is the video that was posted about Gigi. What is Gigi? It is simple to know where the video came from. It is a website called Fiverr where you pay anyone a small fee and send them a script to say. No, that is not true. Sam Waller, what's your Tabata? You are saying ridiculous Tabata. No Tabata is ridiculous. A Tabata being ridiculous, that alone is another Tabata. Varian said, my Tabata today is that Cummings should stop going in the black dark to show his monkey hand to both corrupt leaders and warlords. And for me, and still keep your Tabata coming. Let me share my. Jason says, stay off your cell phone when my guests are speaking. Okay, I thought that was Tabata, Jason. My Tabata is almost everything now, which is this guy say, my Tabata is for this panel to tell me the white chicken that we can vote for. In other words, tell me the perfect person to vote for. Say that's the Tabata. My Tabata is the way Mr. Alexander Cummings is being blamed for everything. I remember when there was a Manisky ad, Prince Johnson said, Cummings put my name there. There was a fake video that came up. Many people from the government side say Cummings did a video. The latest one is there was a report that Liberia was treated as a rogue state at the United Nations General Assembly. And surprisingly, said that Cummings wrote it. That to me is the biggest Tabata that comes from the government side, especially the information minister, to say this is Cummings who did it. Rosalind Cooper said, my Tabata is Finabono dress code. And Evans talk about the video. So we carry a show here where we talk about the video that was made. And so to prove that that video you can, and that's not on Fiverr, we went on a website and I created a fake video that I want you all to listen to and give me your feedback.
Welcome to Focus on Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The best in all Liberia diaspora internet television. We put a great deal in our production. That is why we put out the best. Our CEO Dennis Jah is the most educated of all the talk show hosts combined. Since 1847, there has been no media platform as diverse in its programming, educative and informative like Focus on Liberia.
That was our fake news. And we stretched the truth, right? So it is possible to create these videos, and I created that video in 3 minutes.
Well, but Dennis, in politics is about the optics. It's about what the buzz it creates, the perception, and then the impact later on. So, sometimes people do it for impact. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. No. Dennis, just before you go, I think that's the object of propaganda. Make believe. It targets a specific audience, and once that message is across, every other thing to come and provide a PR to a max will be a matter of utility. Because what has gone, given the gullibility of our society, people would have believed it anyway.
Yeah. Well, you like my fake video?
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
It's on point.
Sam Wallow says the Tabata is Cummings believe that he can surround himself with the photo thieves and not himself become a thief.
And the Baba the photo thieves.
Emmanuel just said my Tabata is fake policy and fake analysis. Darling Warwood, my Tabata of the week is the executive mansion protocol officer dressing like a common criminal. Like, oh no, that's not a common criminal. That's a hip code dress code. So thank you all for participating in the Tabata section. At this time, we'll go around the room and get your closing comment. I think you all talk tough. You agree? This time, before Masa play the female cards here, let Masa be the first to give a closing comment.
No, I wanted to be the last so that the viewers can take my comments
all
with
right,
them.
so we'll give that to you because she's the only female here.
Yeah, I want to be the
and
last.
we have tried to get other female. They were, sometimes we have problem. This another person here, I don't know how you classify this. Darling came back said, my Tabata of the week is Joy. We are being surrounded by 2 girlfriends and a wife at the union. That was my mom now there. I don't know about the girlfriend. And so, Mr. Darling, what would that in itself is complete Tabata from you? All right, let's get your closing comments here. Let's start with Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, it's obviously not what he's saying from what we've heard all along, right?
You say it's not Tabata?
No, I mean it's not far from the it's not too far away from the truth, but that is that's something that it's not it's immaterial right now to what we're saying, but we know those things exist about this president. But so 2023 is coming up, and it's a serious time, and my predicament still is. Who is out there among the opposition that is going to make a difference? Ahmed made a very salient point when he mentioned that, for example, in Liberia, sometimes it's about individuals and not the institution. So the individuals would drive the institution. That's history of that. So there's a reason why in 1869, the TWP 1867 first, the TWP picked Edward James Roy. There were other candidates, but Edward James Roy was wealthy. He was a businessman. He was prominent, and so they picked him, and he was the right candidate. The first time he lost, the second time he won. And Ellen Johnson Sirleaf lifted the UP. We know that the UP, even though the UP was not a French party, but it wasn't anywhere near where it was prior to Ellen Johnson Sirleaf picking up the party. And when she picked up the party, so for over a decade, UP was relevant, and UP is still relevant. So right now, who is that person who is going to be the Edward James Roy or the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf that can pick up a party, a French party, a party that's nobody think that's going to win? Who can pick up that party? I don't know if there's anyone out there right now. I haven't heard from Boakai in a long time. Is he still running? I don't know. I don't know if he still is. And so this is where we are, and that is my predicament. I'm really hoping that the opposition, someone can come along, like a Gonglo, for example, who has a very good message, and try to pick up this party that everybody is saying that there's no gas, that he can just lift up this party. If anything, I love an underdog. So if the LPP can survive the first round and go in and win this election, this would be one of the most unbelievable, one of the most incredible in my lifetime, right up there with the Obama election in the United States.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Sirleaf.
Well, thank you, everybody. It was an interesting discussion. Listen, human rights, and in particular, what happened in our country. First, what really led to the Liberian conflict, particularly the civil war aspect of it, not talking about the various political episodic conflicts, has still not been addressed. And the perpetrators walk around. And so the commissioner was right. Victims are still suffering the legacy, the horrible legacy of our troubled past, until and unless we as a society can make the sacrifice to swallow the bitter pills and address head on the legacy of our conflict, we will continue to see it resurface in different forms. And so, my comments earlier, I hope in a way didn't suggest in any way that Mr. Cummings' association with these individuals or accepting the endorsements now absolve him of any scrutiny. That was in the goal. I'm simply saying we have a problem in Liberia. We have several problems. One of them, which is a population problem. We're a small country, and because we have not really educated our population to be the Rwandans or Kenya or Ugandans of the world, of Africa, we struggle to bring certain kind of technical skills or prominent people, critical mass to do certain things, and then the division of that. So you see everybody running to the same people, and some of these people unfortunately have had checkered past, have integrity issue, we have moral decadence issue, we're struggling with that. So we have major areas as a society that we ought to really take on if we want to move the country forward, because we're not really heading in that direction right now. Nothing we're doing that is moving the needle significantly, whether it's economic development, whether it's some of the social problems that I was pointing out, or even addressing the human rights abuses that occurred in Liberia. So these are very serious matters. At the end of the day, it is up to that politician and their strategists and what they want to do, their own moral compass to make the decision. And we will judge them by the kinds of decisions and the people they surround themselves by.
Thank you. We still have some comments here I want to read. Rosalind Cooper said, Dennis, you all are here to point to the perfect candidate. Our goal here is not to do that. We are scrutinizing all the candidates, and if that what we are saying can help your candidate, I'll be happy. And Jad Francis said, my Tabata is men's domination over everything over women. Your platform tonight can relate. 5-to-1 ratio. Jad, you don't know what you're talking about? We try very much to get women participation. Sometimes it's hard. Mr. Dulaka can relate. We wanted a woman from ANC. And Dulaka's volunteer said, if there's nobody, if everybody trying, there's no woman, I will come. And so that's why we have. So
but
we still
Dennis,
want more women.
make the pitch here now. People are listening to you. Ask the women, the professionals out there, what you're looking for.
Please go ahead.
Put something out. Put something out. Invite people to come to the show, because I question you guys all the time about this. FOL, so where are the women? Bring them. It can be all men panel. And you're trying to, to your credit, but I think you should make a public ask. That might help you.
Yeah, publicly we are asking all women, if you want to be part of the Tough Talking Thursday crew, please come. By Tuesday, we almost have selected our topic, latest Wednesday. And so, and we may not always have that buffer to say we want to give you 2 weeks in advance to prepare. Most of the things we discuss here are things that you discuss on all other platforms and people talk about during the news. So please, if you're out there and want to participate, please give me a buzz. You can drop your name right here. You can email focusonliberia@gmail.com, or you can inbox Focus on Liberia, or you can personally call me. And we will want to, or anyone who's on the panel tonight, or anybody who you think is close to Focus on Liberia here, we want to listen to all views. Let me go to Mr. Jonathan C. Tayo Dolake to give his closing comment.
Yes, thank you, Dennis, for the opportunity, and thanks to all those panelists who have contributed to the forward march of our country. I would like to say that we look forward to not only the political aspect of campaigning to win election, that's one aspect that we should be held accountable for, but also how do we institute governance for our country. Up to the record currently, they say our economy is projected at 4.9 for 2022 to 2023. We still have inflation despite our government have been given 350 million, by the special drawing rights through the IMF since 2021, but we still have inflation just to strike a balance in the balance of trade. We still have we have 214 million that were contributed through the ECF, Extended Credit Facility 2019, and we still stood at 26.97% of inflation. So the international community have been doing extremely well, even with the sanction of corrupt officials. It is on our shoulders as Liberians to play our part. And the way we play that part is not to be passive, to claim that we don't want to get ourselves dirty in the politics, but we want angelic results out of the political spectrum. We are all counted to play a part in this play. We cannot be passive. We are all counted upon to contribute to those political leaders by making a decision, because anything on the negative will fall on all of our shoulders as it is today, that we keep subsidizing rice, though we have a party that came on the march trying to change. That political party has not been able to annex even 10% of what we subsidize rice in millions to invest it into agriculture and test some of the countries that import rice from as to whether they can bring those equipment to produce some level of organic rice back home to reduce the importation. It is quite disheartening, and the person that I feel has a mechanics, not very perfect, but can do it in a surgical manner is Mr. Cummings, who understands private investment versus governance, which comes with protecting the interests of the private as well as protecting the goods and services delivered through governance. And so I appreciate the criticism. It helps to strengthen us. And we can say for a fact that if Mr. Cummings had made a statement 2017 or like 2019 that he supports World Economic Chronicle, definitely Senator Johnson was not going to request of such an assistant, because there's no history that Senator Johnson appreciate anybody who calls for World Economic Chronicle to charge those who are area of the greater responsibility of the atrocity in our country.
Thank you. And Cooper Williams say, Liberia is a different country. You will have to accept the murderers and the thieves to win elections in Liberia because our people listen and celebrate them. That's a profound statement. Also, talking about women participation, we are calling on women also on our show the Saturday 3 p.m. That's our FOL Marketplace. It's on business, finance, and economics. All men, and we want women on that too. On Point has all men. It's on Sunday at 4 p.m. We want women on that show. The good thing is we have other shows that are dominated by women present, and so we are proud of that. This Friday and every Friday we have the literary hour with Dr. K. Moses Namwe and our resident scholar Jackie Sayer. Their topic: the tricks worlds play on us. It's this Friday at 6 p.m. right here on Focus on Liberia, the literary hour. You don't want to miss it. So Friday we have the literary hour with Jackie Sayer and Prof. Namwe. On Saturday we have the History Channel with Carl Famule, our resident historian, also a female. Then on Sunday morning, or Sunday 1 p.m. we have the Noonday with journalist Priscilla Yananto. You don't want to miss all these exciting shows. On Tuesday at 7 p.m., we have Abby Tyler Healthy Living. That's our health show with Abby Tyler. is right here on Focus on Liberia. Here at FOL, we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. And you can't find this anywhere else on the planet. Let me go to Comrade Wesley for his closing comments.
Well, thank you. I think it's been a great show. Let me join Masa, Ahmed, and one or two folks who commented. Our democracy will lose its very essence when the women who make up more than half, a little over half of the population, are not given voice, visibility, access, equal participation in all spheres of national life. And so Ahmed re-echoing the fact that you would like to see the faces of our smart, brilliant, intelligent women on Tough Talking Thursday makes a lot of sense. But it's one thing to invite folks, it's another thing to build themselves to participate. So I'm not quite sure whether Dennis has not made the effort to reach out to our sisters, our comrades, and what have you. 2023 poses a huge challenge for the small West African nation. Whether we like it or not, we stand to either make or unmake history. And that will happen when the actors, those on whose shoulders we demand equity, transparency, accountability, and the fundamental canons of the rule of law. In the absence of demonstrating that commitment for the greater good to lead and bring hope in the midst of hopelessness, surely we're going to be doomed. What we do on this platform, I just hope Mr. Cummings and Councillor Gongloe were listening. These are genuine concerns expressed by Liberians who see beyond their noses, not necessarily what Mr. Cummings' inner cycle or Councillor Gongolo's kitchen cabinet will be thinking. By the end of the day, we all want the best for our country. And by saying openly, frankly, candidly, here, it provides a better opportunity because it is about leadership and the leadership that will transform and give hope to the many out there who, in the words of one of our colleagues on this platform, can I get the 25 kg bags of rice again because of very stringent constraints regarding importers versus the commitment of government to support or, as it were, subsidize their effort. Our Nobel laureate, Lehman, will continue to respect you, but want you to increase the volume with the sort of participation that will not only see you to be window shopping, especially we will follow your role in Accra in 2003, mobilizing women to end our conflict. If we are at crossroads, reach out to the politicians. It is all about the better Liberia that you want. And so stand up and do the right thing.
Thank you. Rosalind Cooper said, say, hurry, I want Massa, please hurry up. So, and Patrick, no, not that one. Lucini Saka say, talking about women participation, say, bring Call back on the show. We miss having her. So,
Yes,
Lucini, that's true. Call is the History Channel, the Liberian History Channel. That's a huge responsibility. We all have family, we work, Call have kids, you know. She's a mother, she's a work full-time. And so the research of the Liberian History Channel has taken a lot of time away from doing the tough talking. That's why you don't see her. She comes here at least once in a while, but the Liberia History Channel is huge. The research is overwhelming. And so that's why we need help from all of you so that we can find time, on top of our 9 to 5, so that we can have something to do. It may interest you, some of the things, losses we have suffered, just to be able to bring you the show that we bring you. At this time, we want to have a drum roll and bring in Master Washington for just 2 minutes for your closing comments.
You see what? You see what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. When you are bringing the other people in, you didn't give them the time of free move. You didn't say 1 minute.
Because you are noted for going 5 minutes when we say 3. All right, go ahead, Master. 5 minutes.
Okay, so let me just start by saying, on Saturday, the Liberian Women Advocacy to End the Violence in Liberia held our first symposium in the state of Delaware. We had 3 guest speakers. Our keynote speaker was the Lieutenant Governor of Delaware, and 2 other speakers were Liberians. One was Mr. Lawrence Kennedy, and the other one was former Liberian ambassador to the United States, Mrs. Richard Gbowee Dix. When Mrs. Dix spoke, and she highlighted violent periods, contemporary recent violent eras in Liberia's history, she broke down and cried on the podium. This woman is 81 years old. She cried because she was reflecting on her brother, who was also one of the victims of unnecessary violence in Liberia. Her younger brother, her baby brother. And that brother was one of our colleagues, Charles Gbowee. Charles Gbowee was just doing his job as a journalist, and he got caught up in the abortive November 12 invasion with Kuwangpa and Samuel Doe, and Charles got killed. Just Saturday. Now, after all this time, since I think it was 1986, you can correct me, 85 or 86, since that November thing happened, since Charles Gbowee was killed. 85. His sister, who is now 81 years old, was crying Saturday at my program, Me and My Women. She was crying when she reflected on what happened to her brother. So I'm making this point to say that while political parties, while we as Liberians are trying to work out the best political strategy for moving Liberia forward in terms of national elections, presidential and legislative elections, while people are brainstorming everything around the politics, let's not forget to incorporate a sense of human rights and accountability for what has happened in Liberia. Because people are not healed. People are not healed. It's because we have not addressed what has happened. And this is why from the beginning of the show, I was extremely, passionate, is because people like us who want to see impunity at least addressed deeply in Liberia, someone like me who is with the community every day, we know, we see the pain, we feel the pain, we all have our private pains. And this is why when we see people who we know can do better, who we know can do better, who's supposed to do better, when we see them thinking that they need to just do business as usual, they need to just come and join the rest of the people, and by so doing, they indirectly, they don't mean to do it, but what they do is that they continue to entrench perpetrators, warlords, and violent people. They continue to entrench them in our society. And this is why I am saying, and I'm glad that my ANC friends are listening, Mr. Cummings is making a mistake again. Rosaline, Cooper, you're my girl, I love you. Tell Cummings he's making a mistake again. He made a mistake with Benana Ure in the CPP. He made a mistake with Prince Johnson. This is why a man like Prince Johnson, who's supposed to be in the Hague right now, locked up in prison, Prince Johnson can come today now and gaslight and spray gun Cummings with a whole lot of nonsense talk, because Cummings got no business with Prince Johnson. He got no business with Prince Johnson. Cummings need to distance himself from all these people, because the pain of the Liberian people is still there and it's deep. We will oppose Mr. Cummings going this way, because you know what? This is business as usual. We expect too much of him. We don't want business as usual. We want impunity to stop. We want accountability. And we think that the way he's going is he's entrenching by rolling out the red carpet for Louis Brown, Gabriel McIntosh, having secret meeting with Prince Johnson. Why are you donating $55,000 to Prince Johnson University when this man's a millionaire already on the sweat and blood of Liberians? So this is why people like me become so passionate, because we live it every day. We live in the community. Just Saturday, I saw a former ambassador, 81 years old, cry on our podium when she remembered her brother, Charles Bayon. He was only 29 years old when he died. The family never got his body. They never got his body. So that family has no closure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Washington, you have all the time. I want to thank all of you for coming. And guess what? I'm going to be off this weekend. Tomorrow is my birthday. I'm turning older, right? So in support of my birthday, donate to FOL so that we can have our station broadcast this show in Liberia. Until then, again, I want to thank our viewers for participating. I want to thank all of you for always keeping it right here on Focus on Liberia. Until we see you again, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.